and welcome to my channel. My name is Beth and this is the Bookworm Trait. I don't know why I did the McDonald's M. Hi, my name is Beth and welcome to my channel, the Bookworm Trait. So today I am going to share with you what I read in October. Now October is a month for spooky reads, but I hate horror, so I did not read any spooky books in October. I have no regrets. October was a bit of a weird reading month for me. It was the first month that I did Sims pick my TBR, so my TBR was quite random. And something happened to me. I don't want to spoil the rest of this video, but I read a book and it sent me a little bit crazy. And I read a whole lot of books that I don't normally read, but I will get to that later on in the video. We'll start off by going through what my actual TBR was for October. So I planned to read this pile of books in October. I did not read this pile of books in October. Yeah, I DNF'd a lot. So I didn't even get round to The Wicked King. This was probably one of the books that I really wanted to read this month. I will try and read this in November, but I just never got round to picking this up. So I suppose I should then go on to The Cruel Prince. I did start this. I read about 100 pages. Yeah, about 100 pages of this. I don't know why I didn't finish this. I literally have no reason. I picked it up, I read 100 pages, I put it down, I just didn't get around to picking it up again. I do want to finish this in November if I have time, but honestly I'm just not making this a priority. I don't want to read Queen of Nothing till I've reread Wicked King because I don't really remember the story from Wicked King. I remember Cruel Prince a lot better, but I don't have any desire to read this at the minute. So I'm going to try and read this in November. It is a reread. I'm not making it a priority. I do want to reread it before Queen of Nothing, but I don't feel like I need to pick up Queen of Nothing as soon as I get it. So we'll just take it slowly with this one. So before I get on to my TBR, I'll just talk about one other book that I read that wasn't technically on my Sims Picks My TBR, and that was Serpent and Dove. I don't know what I've done with the dust jacket for this. It's in my home somewhere. I read this as part of a buddy read. We read a book every month and we picked Serpent and Dove, and this is the gorgeous Fairy Loot edition, which I don't know if you can really tell, but it's got these gorgeous like bronzy edges. So Serpent and Dove is about a couple, Lou and Lou's husband. What is his name? Ryder? Is his name Ryder? Reed. So this book is the story of Reed and Lou, who are a witch and a witch hunter. They are forced into a marriage because they have an argument or a fight or something, and it looks like Reed is sexually assaulting her. So to cover that up, that he didn't sexually assault her, he marries her. I know it doesn't make sense. And Lou is hiding from someone, her mother. I don't think that's a spoiler. It's really hard to explain this book because the main story is a hate to love relationship between Reed and Lou, witch and witch hunter, but then at the end they throw in some romance. So Serpent and Dove, I think I'm giving this 3 stars. I really enjoyed the start of this book. It's nothing special, it's nothing to like go out and do a huge recommendation on. It is very generic YA tropes of love to hate, hate to love, hate to love. It's nothing that is going to stick with me, but it was just really enjoyable. I liked the character of Lou, I liked the character of Lou's husband, I can't remember his name. I did not like Coco. I liked Ansel. Like, you know, I liked the book. I liked the tropes. I liked that it was just a bit of trashy goodness. It felt like it was a book of two halves, and I didn't like the ending. The villain wasn't really fleshed out. I didn't really understand. Well, I understood why they were doing what they were doing, but what they were doing was despicable, and I just felt like there wasn't enough reason for them to act in that way. In addition, I just felt like the climax happened too quickly. It was like this slow build relationship for 75% of the book, and then in the last 25% it was just all action, and it didn't feel right, and it took me out of the story a bit. I didn't enjoy it, and it probably was a 4-star up until the end, and the end was like a 2-star for me. So we'll meet in the middle, and we're gonna give it 3. I think this is a series, and I probably will continue with the series. I'll at least buy the second book. I might never get around to reading it. But yeah, it's just okay. Just okay. So the books that my Sims picked for me were these ones. So I had, and I'm doing this from memory, guys. I should have probably prepared for this video, but I didn't. So we had The Queen's Poisoner, which was lyrical writing for music, the music trait. I don't remember what the music trait is called. Music Lover? I think it's called Music Lover. We had Sea Witch Rising for Loves the Outdoors, and I picked that because the Sea Witch was a really atmospheric read for me. I felt like the roles of nature were quite distinct in the Sea Witch, and so I thought this might be the same. We had Then He Ate My Boy in Trances, and I think this was for Goofball, because obviously our main character in this book series is freaking hilarious. So apologies if we've moved slightly, as I'm sure you just saw. So I put a book on top of my printer, and then the whole printer just fell over. It's on a windowsill. It's pretty sturdy, so I don't know how exactly it happened, but it tipped over, it hit the camera, the tripod fell against the wall, the camera scraped down the wall, but everything seems to be working, so that is great. I am boiling. So I don't know how far I got into talking about this book before that happened, but this was basically for the playful / goofball trait, because Georgia Nicholson is a hoot and a half. And then the last one for my bonus trait of fast learner, I think, was Truly Devious, because this is set in a school, so school, learning, blah, 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 you know. Now I'm just gonna come out and say it. I DNF'd both of these. So I DNF'd The Queen's Poisoner at about 2 chapters in. I don't know who said this has lyrical writing. It does not. It's really basic and quite childlike writing. I don't know if this is a middle grade. I thought it was YA, but it read like a high fantasy middle grade. I didn't enjoy the characters. I was incredibly bored, and I just didn't want to read it, so I did not. I am a big believer that you should not force yourself to read a book that you are not enjoying. Usually I will try and make sure I get to around 50 to 100 pages depending on the book, but this wasn't doing it for me. I could barely focus on it for like a page, and I just thought this is going to put me into a slump if I force myself to read it. So I DNF'd it. I will be unhauling this. I might give it to my goddaughter because, as I said, it reads very, very young to me, which is fine if this is aimed at children, but I did not enjoy this. I would not recommend it. So Sea Witch Rising, I DNF'd kind of closer to where I would usually decide to give up on a book, and that was at 120 pages. Now I know a lot of people didn't like The Sea Witch, they found it very boring, but for me it was just a really nice atmospheric slow-paced read. I love fairy tales, and I really got a fairy tale vibe from that book. I really enjoyed Sea Witch. I think I gave it like 4 stars. I did not enjoy The Sea Witch Rising. I actually couldn't tell you anything that happened in here. I mean I could tell you what the basic premise is. Maybe I should do that. So The Sea Witch Rising is a retelling of The Little Mermaid. So The Sea Witch was a telling of, oh, I don't know if it's a retelling because I don't know if it exists, but Ursula's like origin story, whereas this was a retelling of The Little Mermaid, so Ursula is already a thing. So in this book there are two princesses from under the sea. I think they are twins, and one of them falls in love with a human prince. So she makes a deal with the sea witch to go up onto land, and if the prince will fall in love with her within like 3 days, then she can stay as a human. If she fails and he doesn't fall in love with her, she either has to kill him or she will die. Her sister finds out about this and strikes her own bargain with the sea witch to save her sister, and I don't remember what that bargain was. She had to do something, maybe just save her sister. If she did, she would be able to go back to the sea. If she failed, then she would have to remain a human forever. That's about all I can tell you. There were some male characters, there was another princess. Everyone was very bland, very boring. For me, it lacked a lot of the world building that there was in The Sea Witch, and I think I'm someone who really loves world building. I don't mind a slow-paced book, I don't mind a character-driven book. I would probably describe The Sea Witch as like a world building based book. I didn't mind that. This just was like a nothing book. There was a story, there was a plot, but what that plot was, I don't know. At 120 pages in, I feel like I should know the direction of the book, and I could sense that there was these upcoming romances, but it was just very, very dull. I'm not going to unhaul this because A, it is absolutely gorgeous. I mean, just look at these covers, they are stunning. And B, I feel like in another setting I would really enjoy this book. Maybe. Maybe, not definitely, but definitely. I feel like if I was maybe on holiday and I wanted something that I could just kind of pick up and put down and not really worry too much about what's going on or be so drawn into the book that I couldn't put it down, this would be good for that. Yeah, I've just described this as a good book for when you want to read but not enjoy reading. I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm just not unhauling it, mainly because it's beautiful, and as I said, I really enjoyed Sea Witch, and I do want to hopefully try this again and enjoy it in another life. So yeah, 2 DNFs from my TBR. Not great start. I did finish the other 2 books, and we'll start off with Then He Ate My Boy in Trances. Now I can't really tell you what this book is about. It's like the 6th book in the series or something, but just a general overview. This series is about a girl called Georgia Nicholson, and it's very much just about her life. It's about love, relationship, friendship, schools, set in late 90s, early noughties Britain. Disclaimer for this book, it hasn't aged well. This was written when I was a teenager, and although I do feel it is very true to teenage culture at that time, we are much better people now. We treat people better, and we understand more the impact of words that we say and use, whereas when this was written we didn't really take into consideration things like that. So there is fat shaming in this, and there is not homophobia but negativity around lesbians specifically. People are probably like, well, how can you be negative about lesbians without being homophobic? I can't, that's something I can't get into right now, but yeah, it's a book of its time and it is really funny and really enjoyable, but I do just need to make that clear that that is sadly a part of this series. On the other hand, I don't recall this one being as bad as some of the earlier books, so maybe this does show kind of the development of us as human beings and how we treat and speak to each other. But yeah, I gave this 5 stars because I just absolutely love this series. It's hilarious, it's so easy to read. This is a fabulous book for if you are slumping or if you're in a readathon, because it's short, quick, light, funny, fabulous, amazing. I love it. And then lastly, Truly Devious. Okay, so Truly Devious is about a girl called Stevie who gets into this like exclusive boarding school where I think you can only get into this school if you're like really talented in some kind of niche thing, and she just knows a lot about crime and solving crime. So this school, Ellington Academy I think it's called, when it was open, the founder's wife and child they went missing, and the wife has been confirmed dead, the child has not, and Stevie wants to solve this murder, but while she's at the school, murders start again. I don't know how to rate this book. I'm giving it 3 stars because I enjoyed it, but I also really didn't enjoy it. And I realise that makes no sense. I don't know how to make that make any more sense, because I thought it was a good book. I thought it was well written. I thought it was interesting plot. I thought the characters were interesting, but I just didn't connect with it. I just didn't care for the story. I kind of guessed a lot of what was going to happen, and I don't know that I would necessarily class myself as someone who is good at guessing the outcomes of books. It's not really something I've thought much about, so I don't know. But I just couldn't connect with this story. I couldn't get into it, and I don't know why. Objectively, it is a good book. There's lots of good things about it. If I was to sit there and give it a mark out of 5 for plot, a mark out of 5 for characters, for world building, it would probably be like a 4 or a 5-star read. If I go on like how I just feel, it's a 3-star to 2-star read. So I'm giving it a 3-star because, as I said, objectively I can accept that this is a good book, but I don't want to read it. I don't know if I'm going to continue with the series because I just don't care. Okay, so for the second portion of this video, we need to start with a story. And that story is, I did a 24-hour reading vlog. Now, I don't know if that vlog is ever going to make it to YouTube because technical issues. So for this vlog, I was finishing Serpent and Dove and I was going to read the whole of The Cruel Prince, and I was like, right, I'm going to need a palette cleanser between these 2 books for when the YA just gets a little bit too angsty. Not that there's anything wrong with angst, as we will find out. And I had watched a YouTube video earlier that day from Rachel Marie's book journey. I'll link it below, but she was basically reading some romance books. And one of the books she read was a book called Punk 57. I thought it sounded quite interesting. I typically do not read any romance at all. But I thought, no, that might be good for something to just kind of keep me going when it's all getting a little bit much. So I finished off Truly Devious. That was another book that I'd had to finish. I finished off Truly Devious, which I listened to on audio, and I was about to listen to Serpent and Dove on audio because I was cooking or something, and I realised that my audiobook didn't match where I was at with my physical book. I was halfway through cooking and I didn't want to like go and find out where I was in the book and then do it on the audiobook. So I thought, do you know what, I'll just put Punk 57 on whilst I finish this off, and then I'll start reading when I'm done. Bad mistake, because I could not stop listening to that book. It was so good, and it kind of sent me off on a new adult contemporary smut-a-thon, and I have absolutely no regrets. So to start off, let us talk about Punk 57. So Punk 57 is another hate to love romance about a girl called Ryan and a guy called Misha, and they basically become pen pals when they're at school, when they're like young, and they continue writing to each other even after this school project of having a pen pal has finished, and they are probably each other's best friends. They are very close, although they have never met. One day Misha is out and he sees a girl and he realises that she is Ryan. Now, she is incredibly beautiful, but she seems like someone who is really, really shallow and horrible and a bully, and Misha hates her. Now, some things happen in Misha's life that are very upsetting for him, and he really struggles to deal with them, and he ends up having to go to Ryan's school. Now, he knows who Ryan is, Ryan doesn't know who he is, and what then transpires is a very intense and sexy hate to love trope. But boy, was this sexy. Like, oh my god, it was sexy. I was flustered. There were some scenes in there where I was fanning myself, but it was so good. Like, I couldn't stop listening to it. I don't think I quite managed to finish it in the 24 hours, but I finished it that day, so the second day. And then I was like, right, I need to read another one. So I read another standalone, also by Penelope Douglas, and this was called Birthday Girl. And this is probably a contender for my favourite book of this year. I freaking love this book. Like, I cannot stop thinking about this book. So this book was about a girl called, damn it, what was her name? Jordan. This was about a girl called Jordan, and she had a boyfriend. I don't remember his name. I'm not going to go and try and find it. But she had a boyfriend who was kind of a waste of space. She was from a trailer park. She didn't have, you know, a lot of opportunities in life. But she was very mature, and she was working very hard to try and better herself. Her boyfriend just was a bit of a loser and got them basically kicked out of their apartment. So she and they had to move in with his dad, Pike. Now, Jordan had already met Pike at, I don't know why he was called Pike, but he was called Pike, at this like movie night, and they'd sat together and they chatted and they flirted a little bit, and there was a little bit of sexual chemistry there. But then she found out it was her boyfriend's dad, so she was like, oh no, 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 no. But her boyfriend's a loser, and Pike is clearly her soulmate. And oh my god, it was so good. So it's obviously about a romance love story between Jordan and Pike. There's obviously an age gap. Apparently that's my thing. Who knew? So that, yeah, there's an age gap between them. It's also like forbidden romance because it's her boyfriend's dad. It was so well written, and it didn't come across sleazy at all. And it was, although obviously you shouldn't be sleeping with your boyfriend's dad, obviously, you could tell that they were trying really hard to not hurt the son slash ex-boyfriend. There was no cheating in this. I just think it was done really well as you can do a I'm going to sleep with my boyfriend's dad book. It was great. 5 stars. Yes, 5 stars for a romance book from the girl who hates romance. Apparently she does not, because after that I read another 3. I think it was 3. Let me see if it was 3. 3. I DNF'd 1, so 4, but 3. So the next one I read was called Pretty Reckless by LJ Shen, I think. I've read quite a lot of her books now, and I enjoy her books, but she's no Penelope Douglas, I'll tell you that. Her scenes are not quite as steamy. So she has got 2 series. She's got the Saints and Sinners series, and I think like All Saints High series or something like that. So Pretty Reckless is from the All Saints High series, and this is about a girl Daria, who, these books are going to be very hard to describe. So there's a girl, Daria, her parents take in this boy, I don't remember what his name is. They take this boy in to live with them because he's poor and his mum's dead and his stepdad's a druggie, and he comes to live with them and they hate each other, and then obviously they fall in love with each other. I'm probably not going to describe the plots of all of the books because they are literally all going to be the same. So then I also read Scandalous, or which was another age gap romance, and it was amazing. So in that we had Edie, who falls in love with Trent, who is older and also her dad's like nemesis. So again, I really liked that one. And then we had Bane, which was about a guy, Bane, who falls in love. What's his love interest's name? Also Snowflake, but I don't remember what her name was. So yeah, we've got Bane and his love interest. And Bane is a male escort who is hired by this girl's dad to kind of bring her out of her shell. This one was a bit weird. Following a very traumatic gang rape, her stepdad hired a male escort to help her recover through friendship and to also give her a job in exchange for $6 million. Yeah. I gave all of these books, I don't really think I would rate these books. I've just given probably between 3 and 4 stars. They were really enjoyable, I enjoyed them, but one thing that I find that LJ Shen does in her books, which I didn't see in Penelope Douglas's books, and this is going to sound a bit weird, but Penelope Douglas's books were kind of believable. Like, they were like, okay, it's pretty unlikely that someone's going to move in with their boyfriend's dad and then fall in love with him, and then like at the end everyone's happy and friends still. You know, that's unlikely. But the underlying stories in these books are so dramatic. They're like soap operas. Like, this is a group of friends, so these books are all kind of interlinked, and they just all have this horrible lives where these horrible traumatic things have happened to them. And yeah, but they're still good, and I still really enjoyed all of them. So yeah, I'm not going to go really into big in-depth analyses on them because this video is already really long and there's not really a lot to say. So I just want to talk about one more book and then I'll be done. And that was a book that I DNF'd, and that was whilst I am still in the midst of this smut frenzy, and that was called The Cruel Prince. Not the Holly Black version. It was Cruel Prince by... So it's by Ashley Jade. Now I DNF'd this book. So this book is about a boy. He has a name, and a girl who also has a name, and they were best friends at school, and then the girl had to move away. Then the girl comes back and the guy hates her. Now I DNF'd this at about around 50% of the way through. The reason I DNF'd this book was because this love interest male was a psychopath, and I don't mean that in the sexy bad boy alpha male kind of way. I mean that in wake up and he is lying on top of you holding a knife to your throat. Like, he was scary, not sexy, not oh I'm trying to hide how I'm feeling. He was legitimately scary. There were 2 scenes where he was wearing a ski mask to threaten somebody. Both times he was acting in a threatening way, not towards people, but doing things that were very questionable, and he just fucking scared me. Like, there's nothing more I can say about that. He was a scary ass man, and I don't like that. I don't like that. There was one sex scene, it was kind of weird. I mean, just the whole book just gave me a really uncomfortable vibe. There was this backstory going on that was very, very problematic. This book is kind of the reason why I don't typically like romance, because I find a lot of the time there's a lot of problematic things going on to do with consent. There's this weird thing that I find in a lot of romance books where they will say no. The woman will say no, and then the man will say yeah, like, yeah, you do want me, you do want me, and like, I just don't like that. I know it's, you know, I've never read one where the consent is, you know, it's not clear that they actually do want it. But I don't think it's sexy when, like, the man manages to persuade her to have sex with him anyway. And I also feel like a lot of the time, like, the women are just these stereotypical kind of meek and mild, and they're virgins, and they're these perfect women. And I found that The Cruel Prince was going into that territory where it was just a bit ick, whereas the other books that I'd read, so the Penelope Douglas ones and the LJ Shen ones, were, I mean, they were still bad boys, hate to love, you know, all of that stuff. But I felt like in a lot of them, the women were actually strong, independent characters who took control of their sexuality, and I'm here for that. So this has been a super long video, so I do apologise. Thank you for sticking with me. I've probably been incredibly incoherent because that is my brand. I intend to continue with this Smutathon into next month, so if you want to go look at my TBR, you can. Those books won't be on there because I am not going to select them. I mean, I have selected them, but I'm not going to vocalise the books that I've selected beforehand because it's all open to change, and I'm finding that I can read 2 or 3 of these a week, so I'm just going to pick them up as and when I want. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please let me know, so either give me a thumbs up or a comment, or if you want to, subscribe, and hopefully you will join me again in another video. Bye!